Welcome to EnVision Center News, where we discuss community impact and involvement with today's nonprofit leaders and philanthropists.
Angel, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. You are one of our newest additions to the EnVision Center, and you've really kind of in a short time span held a lot of roles, and now you're transitioning into a brand new role. What is that role? Can you tell us about it?
That is right. So my new role here at the EnVision Center is the client resource specialist, but that role holds a lot of hats. I kind of think about it as like spinning a bunch of,
The
plates.
Yeah.
Because office administration, communications between all the departments and people that work here, with all the donors, with all the clients themselves, with all the businesses, it's all coming to my email really, really fast.
What about the position do you find most appealing? Which part of that?
The part of that I find most appealing about the position and like the new role that I'm gonna start into in the new year is the fact that my focus is going to be helping people. So being client focused, being people focused, that is to me the most important part. All of the other stuff is just a means to an end, and the end is loving people. Yeah.
And how did you hear about the EnVision Center? How did you get involved? Did we reach out to you? Did you reach out to us? Tell that story.
Yeah, so actually that's a funny story. I could go way, way back, so I'll go way, way back.
We got time.
We got time. Oh, girl, do you have time?
Okay, maybe we don't have time.
Maybe not that much time. But okay. My first encounter with like the resource center was as a client. I've had quite a story, and I would love to share with that sometime in another, perhaps another
interview or maybe
interview
a blog
or
post
something.
or something.
Yeah, a blog post or something like that. But my first encounter with the Resource Center was because I was in need as a client. I've been a community member in Sandpoint for almost 2 decades now, and I have 5 kids. I'm a single mom, and way back then, needing to pay rent, needing to pay electricity, and I got directed to the Resource Center, I think by a friend or something like that, or maybe a Google search. And after I really got involved because they had the HPP program through the state of Idaho that was helping low-income people with rent assistance at the time. And I got help through them, which was fabulous. It kind of saved me from when I was homeless. And after that, the HPP program ended, and I kind of fell out of contact with them. And until I ran into Katie Bigalki, our executive director, when I was just hanging out with my partner at McDuff's. And Katie and I know each other from
So literally just strangers? Oh, no. Okay, you're about to tell the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Katie and I knew each other from way back when, like, probably a decade ago. Through Priest River Ministries, Advocates for Women. I was a client, and we just ended up like crossing paths through that organization in ways. And when she saw me in McDuff's, she was like, hey, I have a position opening up eventually. This was for the position that Lindsay took on, the nonprofit specialist.
Right.
So either way, she was just like, please come in. I'd love to meet with you and kind of see where we could plug you in. And so I did, and I got plugged in doing a little bit of social media, like on the side, and just kind of learning how the nonprofit organization works in general. And then when this position opened up, Katie was just kind of scooting me into it immediately the next day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been a little bit of a whirlwind.
It's funny how often that story happens to be people's story when it comes to working in the nonprofit space. We just did an interview with Kelly Dean at Youth Emergency Services over in Newport, and it was kind of the same thing. Like, her life was kind of a mess, and then she sorted things out, and then she got involved in nonprofits, and then she kind of had a mentor that just pushed her, and now she's an executive director, and she's like, whoa, how did this happen?
Yeah.
It was a whirlwind, she would say, just like
Yeah.
you are saying. And that's really a beautiful thing about being in the nonprofit space. I feel like frequently, you're helping your community, but also you frequently find community that then helps you, mentors you, pushes you, guides you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've kind of found that through the different connections you've made through this resource center and Priest River Ministries and maybe other nonprofits that you've either been directly involved in or,
Yeah, I would
tangentially.
say it's going to be a really exciting role to fill, and it kind of is a success story, I suppose you would say, right? Like, I was the one in need, and I, ever since then, have been on a journey pursuing my education, right? I graduated this year and got my dual associates in communication and social work. And I was just kind of like, it just seems like I've been being nudged towards a nonprofit sector role for a while. Even in the beginning, when I was a client at Priest River Ministries, Rhonda, I think she just saw something in me where she thought I would be very good. And because of my experiences in the past being a client and being in need, I have such a deep empathy for what clients experience
That's
in
exactly what I was gonna
crisis.
say. Yeah.
For people in need and in crisis, that I know what it's like to be running around wondering how I'm going to make ends meet and needing, like, also struggling, right, with mental health or just emotional health and relational health. And then you just need somebody to guide you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being in that role personally is going to fulfill, sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's going to bring like that full circle,
Yeah.
because I have always wanted to use my experiences to help others.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think through this role, I will get to do that.
And I think it adds kind of, and you can correct me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, or even be cliche, but sometimes cliches exist for a reason. It's sort of like those hard times that you went through really were for a purpose, and they molded you and made you so that you are one of the best candidates to meet people where they're at. And, I'm sure you've spent many nights being like, why is this happening to me? What's going on here? What is the purpose? And now, like you said, full circle, you can kind of look back and be like,
Yeah.
it was building me up to this point.
Yeah. And I have the perspective that, some things just happen. Some things just suck.
Yep.
Sometimes life just sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And my experiences are the results of not my choices. They were choices of my mother's or whatnot,
Yeah.
or people in my life. And then, right as my life has gone on, some of them have been my own poor choices as a result of trying to cope with everything
Sure.
that I experienced in my past. But I look at those things that happen to me, and I think that the way that I can find value in them is by saying, I'm not going to let those be meaningless, evils, meaningless pain. The only purpose I can create for them is to use it to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find a lot of significance in that, in saying, sometimes life just sucks, but I can use that for good. Right? Like,
Yeah.
we are like the workers that make life, what happens to us and what happens to others, meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been, paramount in my growth, is because I think it's really easy when you experience poverty and when you experience abuse or whatever, you start to label yourself as a victim, right? And that is, one, it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And two, if you believe that, you may stay in that, right?
Yeah.
And instead of being a victim, I chose to be a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And by the skin of my teeth, right? To to reach a greater goal and purpose. So I couldn't stay stuck there. Like my life, my history could have kept me there. But everybody has a choice, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that choice is just trying again the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Or reaching out for help, right? And that's what we're here for, is for people who are experiencing those crises to reach out for help.
Exactly. What is your family and like close friends who've seen you go through all these different seasons of life, and now you've got this job at the EnVision Center, and they're seeing you, they're kind of like your audience to the full circle thing. What are they saying, and what do they think about it all?
I think it's exciting. I think that they're excited for me because, because it's really, it's a result of countless hours that I put in at community college, and sleepless nights and crying and over assignments and things like that. I think they're excited for me. I actually just one more thing I was gonna say about what's exciting about me being in this role is, as a community member that has gotten so much help from organizations in this community, now I'm going to be the one walking into the door and saying, hey, how can we help you?
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I dropped off some presents to Panhandle Special Needs that was donated by La Chic Boutique for the Giving Tree, right? And I walk in, and Lisa, forgive me, I forget your last name, but Lisa works there. And I knew Lisa back when my kids were in NIC Head Start, and she held my hand when I was crying about the experiences that I was going through at the time, needing, housing and assistance and stuff like that. And we met at the door, and she was like, I didn't know that was you on the phone. I said, I didn't know that was you. And so we just got to have a really fun reunion.
Yeah.
Where I think it's actually really encouraging for the people who serve clients too, because they're like, this is what we're doing this for, right? Is so people can find healing and find success and move into, right, a better situation. And I don't know, I guess I'm tooting my own horn a little bit, but I'm like, here I am. I freaking did it.
Yeah. You changed the trajectory of your life, and that's awesome. And you're acknowledging, that you did it with the help of others. So it's not like you're tooting everybody's horn, including your own.
I would say I would still be where I was 15 years ago, which was a very bad place, without them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When you were getting your education, you said communication and social work?
Yes.
So you knew that this was kind of what you wanted to do, this type of work? Or did you have a different goal in mind?
Well, I always felt the compulsion to help people. And that, for me, when I started college, it looked a little different back then. I thought maybe I could be a physical therapist assistant because I had personally gone through some sports injuries, and I know how difficult that is to process, right? Traumatic injury, mentally and emotionally. And the physical is just a small part of it. But all the classes were in Coeur d'Alene, and as a single mom of young kids, I couldn't do that every day because it was every day. It was nursing school or something like that almost. And they didn't have something like that in Sandpoint. So I was looking at my options, and I changed my degree to general studies. And then I was like, I don't want to graduate with just general studies. No offense to anybody who has a general studies degree, but I felt I needed to have some sort of intentional, something about it. So I decided that, and this is something so I spoke with my therapist about this, and she would always tell me, you'd make a really good therapist. I was like, that's nice to hear from my own therapist, but I don't know, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So I want to pursue mental health work and become a trauma therapist.
Okay.
And so that's why I started researching, and I found out that social work is the way to start that, or psychology, but I can't do math and I don't want to be a statistics psychologist or a research psychologist. So I'm like, no, can't do that. But the social work side of it, I'm good at. And I've also always been told that I'm a good communicator. And so I just decided to get a paper to prove it.
Yeah.
So that's why I geared towards the communication, because it's a degree that can be used broadly in a bunch of different fields. It helped me. And as I pursue my education more, will help me. Studying communication and verbal, whether it's body language, all of the nonverbal communication, all those things help me work with people. And so my goal really is to just help people. And this may be like just for a season, I'm not going back to school just yet, but eventually I want to become a therapist. For this season, like, this is finally getting to use not only my experience, but my education for that purpose. So I suppose, to boil it all down to, I just want to help people. And this is a great, awesome opportunity and way to do it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're not sure what your timeline will look like for going back to school yet?
For going back to school, I am going to start again with like maybe one class in the spring.
Okay.
But in this huge transition of, I was working at Starbucks as a barista for the last 2 years while I was putting myself through school. And
how many kids do you have at home? Are they all at
I
home
have
still?
3 at home.
Three at
My
home,
two
okay.
oldest one, my oldest son is an adult, which is really weird. He
You don't
just turned
seem old
18.
enough to have.
I don't. And I'm not. I'm
enough.
only 33.
Yeah.
So I had him when I was 15.
Okay.
And like I said, like, my story, my history it's pretty long. Just a brief, so you can have a little snapshot. I was raised in a cult.
Oh.
And my mother started a commune when I was around 13. And I was married off when I was 13. And so that's why I had my first son when I was 15.
Wow.
So a lot of history and a lot of trauma. I was raised in a really abusive, isolationist environment. And breaking free of that, I escaped when I was 17 through the help of Priest River Ministries. When somebody that my ex-husband knew found out was going on, they brought me to Priest River Ministries, and I ended up being in support group with them for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What
So
an
it's
incredible service.
a long history of that. So.
Okay, so you still got 3 at home. You're working. You're putting yourself through school. So it's gonna be. It's not a sprint. You're gonna chip away at the next step of your education to get there, to get to the therapist.
Yes, for sure. And for all I know, that end goal may change. I don't.
Sure.
I'm just, maybe I end up doing this and I just love this.
Sure. Yeah.
And will do it for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, starting to go back to school in the spring to get my bachelor's in social work. And I will be doing that probably through Lewis and Clark State College.
Okay.
Because they have a social work degree that's all online.
Nice. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, but in the midst of raising little kids and transitioning to this new job, and all of my life is just in a million different directions right now.
Yeah.
And so whilst like getting my education and getting my bachelor's and starting that is important to me as a goal, it's going to be like little bits at a time.
Yeah. Which is honestly maybe the way we all should do it. Whether you have a lot of kids and are doing a lot or not, because it just seems less intimidating to do it that way and more balanced. I've been thinking about that a lot because my kids are very little. So like college and that kind of stuff is way down the road for us. But I'm like, maybe we do it in like an unconventional way with them.
A lady I know from Cedar Hills Church, Alyssa, she once told me while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my education or my life, she said, well, the time passes anyway. So why not just take a little chunk, right? And then that little chunk, right, builds up over time. So one class this spring,
Yep.
I can still do this job. I also am a contributing writer to Like Media, a local publishing company, so I can do that job. And, I can take care of my kids. And everything I do, I personally have, like, just a general, what's the word I'm thinking for? I just have a personal belief that anything I do, I want to do well, and I want to do it passionately. And you cannot do everything well if you are in a million different directions. So prioritizing what's important, right? This job is important to me. My writing job is important to me. My kids are important to me. And focusing on what really matters and honing in on that is really important to me, so I can do it well.
Yeah. I have a mentor friend that says, you can have it all, you just can't have it all right now.
Yeah.
So you got to decide what's going to be your priority in the moment, in the season, in the year, or whatever, and then maybe you can move on to the next thing. So I think that's very wise. Angel, if someone gets a hold of this and they're in a similar situation that you were, whether they're a single mom or someone that's just struggling, and they could be a man or a woman that's in just a bad situation, homelessness, poverty, they don't know where to turn, they're sort of getting sucked into maybe that victim mindset, and they hear you and they're like, okay, I want to be a victor, I want to be a survivor, I don't even know like what the first step is. What advice would you give them?
I would say
a little of it's going to be situational, of course, but
I think that the first step, would probably to reach out for help to somebody that cares. And I think that also,
even just a friend or somebody that you trust, and just say, hey, I need help.
Yeah. Or the EnVision Center, or any of our many local nonprofits that may help with that specific issue. But I think it also is internal. Like there is a level of strength that you have to recognize you do have in order to break out of that. So it's all about belief, right? If you believe that you're a victim, you're going to be a victim, right? If you believe that you can survive this and you can succeed, you will. So it all starts in here and in here. I think it's also really important to be humble. Being in need for most of my life for community services is very humbling. It's and I think that that's good, right? I think that if we think that we can do it all on our own, we do a disservice to ourselves and to others, and to perhaps your children if you have children, because we're human beings created to be in community, right? And created to help one another. And I personally think that ego can get in the way of that, right? If you think that no, it's fine, I'll just make it on my own. I think there's a little bit of the Americanized individualism that it makes people feel like that they can't ask for help or shouldn't, or it's like embarrassing, right, to ask for help. And so I think that creating a sense of humility in yourself to be able to say, you don't have it all. There are other people that are gifted with what you need. And it is okay to ask for help. And the last thing I would say is the ability to forgive yourself, because we blame ourselves a lot for the situations that we either are in or put ourselves in that are bad. And if you continue to blame yourself for your past choices, your mistakes, who you let do what, you're going to spiral into a belief that you deserve it. You deserve where you're at. And you don't. And that's not, in my opinion, that's not what God wants for anyone, right? Forgiving yourself is one of the first steps you need to take to be able to recognize that you do deserve love, and to be healthy, and to be seen and heard and happy and cared for. And I think that those are kind of like the key ingredients internally that people can do to reach a level of belief that they are a survivor, that they deserve to survive, that they deserve to, I really love the word you used actually, be a victor. And I think that's a really good that's a really good like aid to think. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. I am a victor, right? And if you believe that, if you really deep down inside believe that you are forgiven, right? You don't deserve this. You are strong, and keep yourself humble.
Yeah.
I think you can progress in that mindset from being a victim to being a victor.
Yeah. Well, great advice, Angel, and we're very blessed to have you at the EnVision Center. I know you're going to be such a great first face for our clients when they walk through and they get to chat with you. I think maybe you were like born for this. And that's really great for the EnVision Center. So thank you for what you do and what you will do. And we just know there's great things coming.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited. It's going to be awesome. And I feel very privileged, frankly. I feel privileged and blessed myself to have the opportunity to use what has been, has been bad for good.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Connie.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. For more information, you can go to crecidaho.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again soon.